I feel like every time I talk about the S&P 500, I get comments from people saying, "Oh, please, S&P 500 is just so conservative. It's so safe. Like you need to go out there and do better than that. I got 400% return in my portfolio." Yada yada yada. But I just feel like so many people don't consider all of the risks that are associated with trying to go for that 400% ROI or trying to do whatever it is to try to beat the S&P 500. For those of you who do not know what the S&P 500 is, it's literally just a list of 500 companies that are headquartered in the United States that issue stock from their company to the public, which means people like you and me can go onto the stock market exchange through our brokerage accounts and we can buy shares of stock from these 500 companies. Now, they're not just any randomly chosen 500 companies. These happen to be the largest, most successful, the ones that are really leading all of the results and the returns that the average of all the companies in the US get. It's really because these are the companies doing most of that work. They're the ones getting most of the gains that drive the growth of the whole entire stock market in the US, which is over 4,000 stocks. So they're essentially picking the 400 largest leading companies out of the 500 largest leading companies out of over 4,000. So you really kind of, in my mind, when I like to explain it to students, when I talk to young people, I always say, just imagine the honor roll when you were in school, right? The honor roll is basically you looking at all of the students who were the best performing students that semester or that quarter. So for the stock market, S&P 500 index is basically the honor roll. It's the largest leading stocks in the US stock market, and you can see them all on one list by just looking at which companies are on the S&P 500 index list. Now, the reason why I say don't sleep on it is because every single person that knows me personally and has my cell phone number or usually DMs me on a regular has been sending me the exact same screenshot, and I'm gonna share it with y'all. It's from a tweet or somebody went on x.com and posted. This person is Ankur Nagpal. The tweet is a mind-blowing stat. Jerry Buss bought the Lakers for $67 million in 1979 and just exited for 149 times his money at $10 billion in 2025. Sounds like a lot, right? That is somehow less than he would have made simply indexing the S&P 500 over that same time period, which would have been $13 billion instead of 10 billion. Now, this tweet probably having a viral moment. Everybody's talking about it. And of course, there's nuances to it because when you consider the cash flow and all these other things, it can be debatable. But that is a simple, straight up fact. And that's why it is so important that we pay attention to the S&P 500 and don't just sleep on it. Don't just act like, oh, it's just this conservative thing. Oh, maybe it's just for beginners. No, listen, plenty of people have built wealth by keeping their investment strategy really simple. Just set it and forget it and just increasing their income so they can just keep throwing money at something as simple as an S&P 500 index. So I feel like if you're not really sure how to start investing, if you know you want to open a Roth IRA, but you don't know what investments to buy inside the Roth IRA, don't be ashamed to start simple. Just go ahead and pick an S&P 500 ETF or an S&P 500 index fund and set it and forget it. Automate your reoccurring deposits account and just keep on buying more shares of the S&P 500 every chance you get. That is a great way to start. That buys you time. So at least now you're good. Feel like you have a solid strategy to start. And now you can start researching. You can start reading. You can start watching videos. You can start reading newsletters and blogs and tweets and all kinds of things to help you inform maybe a way you might want to pivot your strategy. Maybe you want to add a couple more index funds inside of your portfolio. But if all you do to start is just buy S&P 500, don't feel lesser than anybody else out there boasting about their investment returns. Don't sleep on the S&P 500, people. I feel like a lot of people think it's just not that great of an investment or it's just something that people do when they don't know what else to do. Nah, that Lakers tweet that's having a viral moment makes it very clear that the S&P 500 has had very strong performance going all the way back to 1979. And I was curious, and today I just literally pulled up some stats about the S&P 500, and I was like, over the past 10 years, it has done over 11% average after adjusting for inflation, because inflation has been a bit high recently. That's about 8% after inflation. When you look at the past 20 years, very similar. When you look at the past 30 years, very similar. The past 40 years, the past 50 years, we're looking at 7 to 8% on average after inflation adjustments. That is really freaking good. I'm so tired of seeing people come online and brag about their options trades or their crypto investments that are making hundreds of thousands of percent return. It's just at this point, everybody don't got to be doing all of that. Everybody doesn't want to be doing all this complex, constant, everyday logging into their account type of thing. Some people just want to live their lives. Some people just want to do what they love to do, spend time with their family, have a good job that gives them a sense of value and meaning every day when they wake up in the morning. Everybody doesn't have to be out there hustling and bustling, chasing all kinds of crazy ROIs in their investment portfolios. And if you do want to do that, fine, props to you, go do that. But I just don't want every single person to feel pressured to make that specific type of investment strategy to be their investment strategy, because it doesn't have to be that way. I have never done that. I have never spent more than a couple hours a year looking at my investment strategy and looking at my investment plan. I set it and forget it. I just keep on adding money. Instead of spending a whole bunch of time focusing on my investments, I spend a whole bunch of time focusing on how can I increase my income so that I can invest more money, so I can put more money into my investment portfolio and keep working that thing, keep compounding and growing that money over time. So I just wanted to speak up about this because I feel like I've seen that Lakers post going around. I had a bunch of people send it to me already. And, it's really interesting how people would think that that's a really massive sale. Wow, $10 billion, and he bought it for this price and he took it for that price. That's 150 times his net worth and or his growth. And it's like, yeah, but again, keeping it simple works too. Instead of 10 billion, he would have gotten 13 billion if he had invested that same amount of money into the S&P 500 back in 1979 instead of using that money to buy the Lakers. So I really do think this is something that we need to pay close attention to and stop giving into all this hype and all the overhype. And especially when it comes to people on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all these platforms talking out their neck about how much money they're making. You really don't know how much risk they took, how much they lost to try to make that much. You don't know any of their financials. You only know what they're telling you that they've done. And a lot of people love to brag and boast because they have something to prove or they have something to sell. So I just want to come on here and say, look, a little bit of humility goes a long way. We can keep it simple. We don't have to do all that. And again, if it's not something that you feel like is for you, if it's the reason why you haven't started investing, if that feels like a barrier to entry, like I kind of wanted to invest, but I just feel like I don't want to pick stocks. I don't want to, track all of these ticker symbols. I don't want to learn all of these formulas and algorithms. I don't want to learn how to read candlestick stock charts and all that. You don't have to. If you don't want to take that route, there is a simple route that a lot of us are out here making good money doing, which is passive investing. All you got to do is buy it and hold it and just keep buying. Just keep buying. You don't have to worry about all that extra stuff. That is optional, not required. Okay, so that's my little soapbox today. That's me on my soapbox today, just giving you a little rant. At the end of the day, that's just what it is. Okay, let me see. Anybody on here? You're so helpful. Thank you, Giovanni from Giovanni X from Instagram. I appreciate that. I honestly do feel like a lot of times there's so much information and it can be overwhelming. So it's just nice to break up all that noise and just kind of, break it down in a very simple way. And also just let you know that is noise. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It is noise. And you don't have to pay attention to it if you don't want to. So while we're on here, I figured we could talk basics of the S&P 500, and then if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Let me know. And I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand about the S&P 500 is how really truly how well diversified it is. A lot of times when you have your own investment portfolio and you're trying to pick stocks on your own and choose investments by yourself, you have to really try hard to make sure you don't over leverage any one industry or one sector, right? So in case you didn't know, there are 11 different sectors in the stock market. And so many of them are common sectors that we know: financials, technology, real estate, energy, materials, consumer goods, consumer staples. All of these different types of sectors help us to organize stocks, organize companies into essentially what are the other companies that they compete with, right? If it's a bank, that's a public corporation that operates as a banking institution, okay, well, then that's going to compete with all the other banks and other financial institutions in the financial sector, right? So it just helps us categorize companies and organize the 4,000 plus stocks in the stock market in a nice, orderly, neat, organized way. So I do really think people need to learn about how is the stock market organized. Know the basics. What are the 11 sectors in the stock market? And when you create your own portfolio of investments, how many of those 11 sectors are you holding in your account? Because if you only have one, even if you have, let's say, 50 stocks, if they are all from the same sector, then you're not actually really truly diversifying. You're making a little bit of a mistake there, because if that sector takes a hit for whatever reason, that sector is hurting and is down bad, the economy is not doing well, particularly for that sector, well, then your entire account is going to go down, is going to drop, because all 50 of your stocks that you're holding are in that same sector. So they're all going to take a hit and drop at the same time. Versus if you have, 50 stocks and 5 of them are from one sector, 5 of them are from a different sector, another 5 are from another sector, you have a bunch of sectors represented. Let's say one sector is doing really poorly and the values are starting to drop because that sector is taking a real bad hit in the market. Or you have all these other sectors, stocks from all these other sectors that are probably going to be doing okay, because it's very rare that you would see all 11 sectors of the stock market take a hit at the same time. Those are like once in a generation types of events, like the Great Recession, the Great Depression, COVID, things like this, where you might see a lot of things take a hit. But even COVID, for example, which is a recent one that we all, most of us experience, right? If you look at the market during COVID, immediately people started thinking that, oh no, the market's going to crash. All these companies are going to be doing badly. But because we were all stuck at home and a lot of us were, working from home or just, quarantining, what we actually saw happen was that technology sector went up like crazy. You saw Zoom grow like crazy because everybody started using Zoom. Everybody started using Google. Everybody started using these companies and these software and businesses that allow us to stay connected when we're not in person. So again, even when things go south, even when things are really bad, there's still going to be products and services that we need, goods and services that we rely on to just keep operating and functioning as a modern society. So I just feel like sometimes people are misled or, maybe purposefully miseducated a little bit. If somebody's trying to sell you something, they want you to believe that, you should be scared. They want you to believe that, you're going to lose your money. When in reality, if you look at the S&P 500 over any random 20-year period of time, there's never going to be a 20-year period of time where it drops. It just so far has not happened over hundreds of years. Over 100 years of stock market data, there is not one 20-year period where the index goes down. It just grows over time. So to me, it's a few lessons here. One is stick with it for the long run. 2 is don't pay attention to all the constant hype and pressure and influence from everybody outside and all of this noise around you. Pick a simple strategy that's going to work for you and just keep buying, just keep investing, and just keep growing your wealth. Don't pay attention to all the noise. And then the third thing is don't sleep on the S&P 500. Index funds or ETFs that allow you to buy 500 stocks at the same time from the S&P 500 is a great investment. It's a solid investment based on past performance. It's done very well. And it is, yes, a little bit of a slower way to build wealth rather than trying to go be aggressive. But the point is to build wealth. And if it's going to happen over time, might as well just enjoy the journey, enjoy your work, enjoy your life, find meaning in what you do every day. You're spending time with your family, doing some of your hobbies that you love. Because the sad thing that I notice I see a lot is specifically men, but obviously anybody could fall prey to this. But when you become obsessed with trading, when you become obsessed with making profits, and all you do every day when you wake up is pull up the trading platforms, pull up the ticker symbols, pull up the market performance. And it's basically like you look like you're gambling. You look like you're addicted, right? That addiction, that's not cute. Because then what your children remember is that you never really spent time with them because you were always on looking at your newspaper articles or reading the news or looking at the stock ticker symbols or on your computer or on your iPad or on your phone, constantly trying to chase that profit and chase that money and that growth. It can have a detrimental effect on your quality of life and how well your family and your loved ones are going to remember you, right? And there's a great quote from Maya Angelou that I love, which is, people don't remember what you said to them. People don't remember what you did. They remember how you made them feel. And that is huge for children, especially. So if you're a parent or you want to become a parent one day and you want to have a family and you want to have children, You better pay close attention to that because that's a huge mistake. Spending all your time obsessing over ROI and your portfolio and your profits. And then what your children will remember is how you made them feel neglected, how you made them feel that they were not as important as your stock portfolio. So I personally don't want to live that kind of life. And if you don't want to live that kind of life, I recommend tuning in to just a basic strategy for investing so you can live your life and have a quality life, a nice standard of living, meaning in the everyday things and the people that you love, and just let the market do its thing because data shows that it does keep going up over time. That's just the nature of, the economy in the US businesses and capitalism. And so at the end of the day, just make sure your investment strategy is something that you are comfortable with and something that you can stick to, right? So don't sleep on the S&P 500. I'm just going to say that again. All right, let me see. Any questions so far? What are the 11 sectors again? Oh, you know what? I could probably name some of them, but let me pull up a list. I don't know them all off the top of my head. I named some of them. Let's see. I will pull up a list. Bam, here we go. 11 sectors of the S&P 500, which is the same 11 sectors of the entire stock market, all 4,000 companies. Communication services, consumer discretionary, consumer staples, energy, financials, healthcare, industrials, information technology, materials, real estate, and utilities. Those are the 11 sectors. And the important thing to know, some people like to play the game of trying to time the market. So they'll be like, oh, when the economy is not doing so well, that's when people are going to stop shopping for things that are nice to have, like a pair of Nikes, and they're going to use their little bit of money that they have during tough economic times to just get the things they need, like groceries. So during tough economic times, some people will start selling the stocks that they have in consumer discretionary, which are going to be companies like, Nike, Coca-Cola, things like that. And they're going to switch over to consumer staples, which is the companies like, Walmart, companies where like people have to buy groceries. People need to buy milk and eggs and diapers, not like you don't have the option. If you have children, if you have a family, you need to get those things. Those are things that are considered essential spending, not discretionary spending. So some people like to play that game of timing the market, trying to decide when to sell certain stocks and buy certain stocks. And look, again, if you want to play that game and that excites you, sure, go for it. But for somebody like me, that I'm not excited by the prospect of that. I'm not excited by that, the idea of doing that. So if you are not excited by the idea of doing that, again, I just want you to know that is not what investing is about. That is not the only way that you can succeed investing or building wealth in the stock market. It's not. You don't have to play those games. You don't have to do all that if you don't want to. So again, I think it's just so important for people to know that because it feels like on social media nowadays, everybody thinks the only way to make money is to be playing all these games and handpicking stocks and yada, yada, yada. And that's just not true. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here because I could go on and on and on, but I made my point. If you haven't seen that tweet, I definitely recommend go pull it up so you can see it for yourself. The tweet about the Lakers and how they're being sold for $10 billion between 1979 and 2025, the growth of, growing your money 149 times as much. Yeah, definitely seems like a lot. But with a simple strategy like parking that money into the S&P 500 during that same time, it would have grown even more. It would, instead of 10 billion, it would have been at 13 billion. So that is definitely a good way to like reconfirm, right? Like for me, I already knew, but it's very reassuring to know that something as simple as just buying an S&P 500 index fund in your 401k or your Roth IRA is a solid strategy. Okay. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your evening, the rest of your day. And if you have comments about this, drop them in the chat. If you have questions that you want me to answer in tomorrow's live, put them in either my DMs, my community tab on YouTube, or you can email them to me and I'll try to get back to you or just answer